and have Mr. Warfield go ahead and take the stage where we can get started. All right, well, perfect. And let me say, well, I guess it's a good morning to everyone out there, because we've got our two schools that are tuning in this morning. We've had a whole host of technology problems with schools in Texas, Columbus, Ohio, and Lorain, Ohio as well. So unfortunately, they're going to try to get into this conference, but we'll move on without them. Hopefully they can join in, but nonetheless, I think that's an awesome opportunity for the students that are there at Cathedral City, and an awesome opportunity for the students in Canada. So we're going from CA to CA today, so that's going to be an easy connection from California to Canada. So again, let me introduce myself. My name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee all the youth and educational programs here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we're pleased to have two new groups to this series, Heart of a Hall of Famer. And since you're new to this, let me just explain the premise, the reason why we started this program about 2 years ago. And it was really to convey what it took to get into the Hall of Fame beyond just the athletic ability. We know Mr. Warfield and the other 279 members of the Hall of Fame are great examples of athleticism and skill and talent, but it took more than that to get in the Hall of Fame. It took these core character qualities that hopefully you guys are all studying: the trustworthiness, the respect, the responsibility, the fairness, the caring, the citizenship, all those and more. It took them to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I'll let you guys on a little secret on this, that these aren't character qualities just that pertain to being a Hall of Fame player. These are character qualities that will help you be a Hall of Famer in every element of life, whether it's in your classrooms with your students, whether it's at home with your families, whether it's in the future when you go to college, whether it's in the workforce, whether it's with any charities or organizations that you're affiliated with, whatever it might be. Those are the core of what's going to allow you to achieve greatness in your chosen life endeavor. So we're really excited to give you guys the opportunity to, why not talk to someone who's achieved greatness on the field and off the field. As you'll hear from his a little bit about his bio, he's done some great things on and off the field, obviously. Being a China in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is one of those. So we're really excited to have someone that's that, like many of our Hall of Famers, has been just ultra successful both on and off the field. And we'll give you plenty of time here today to ask those questions about, what obstacles did he face in life, and what adversity did he face, and what character quality do you think is most important to be a leader, and all those great questions you guys have prepared to ask Mr. Warfield. We're really looking forward to getting to those in just a moment. And before we ask Mr. Warfield to open with his opening remarks, there are a number of folks that we do have to recognize that help make this program possible, this connection possible. First and foremost, we have to thank Cathedral City High School and Palm Springs Unified School District. Thank you to all the administration and the folks that are involved with that, Joan Boyko, Christine Anderson, Ryan Wool, Guillermo Chavez, and Todd Diliberto. I probably mispronounced your name, Mr. Diliberto. My apologies, but nonetheless, thank you for all your efforts in making this connection possible here today. We definitely have to thank our friends at Interisys Networks, our partners here at the Hall of Fame. We thank you for everything you've done with hosting some of these out in California. We were with Dermani Dawson last week, Mr. Warfield this week, working on a few other guys in the near future out in California. So thank you to Rick Edson and Eric Rowe and Jerry Herzog and those great folks at Interisys Networks for making this connection possible. And as always, we always have to thank our friends at eTech Ohio and Columbus, Ohio. They're the ones that are bridging this call and making sure that we can do multiple connections at the same time. They're through our State Department of Education. So thanks to all those guys, Mark, Paul, Josh, Scott, all those folks back at the NOC, as we call it. Thank you for making this possible. We have to thank the teachers, because they have made the sacrifice of preparations with their students, class scheduling. I know all those things that have to go into place to making something like this take place. Thank you for your efforts. And then last but definitely not least, we have to thank the students, because you are the ones that will be driving the program, so to speak. You're going to be asking the questions throughout the program here today. So thank you very much. And I would like the students to have an opportunity to give a little shout out, show a little school spirit if you want to. So when I call upon your school, please feel free to give a shout out. And we'll start with Mr. Warfield. I'll ask you to plug your ears for a second. Cathedral City High School, if you want to give a little shout out, go ahead. Thank you, Cathedral. We appreciate that very much. And just to give you guys a little heads up, Cathedral, I'm sure your teachers have already prepped you on this as well. That microphone that is sitting in front of Mr. Warfield that's connecting out to the schools across the country, or in this case Canada, that picks up a lot of background noise and even the lightest of noise. So if we can try to eliminate any background noise, as you guys have been already, we greatly appreciate that. And then we got to go to our friends in De Winton, Alberta, Canada. Okay, I know we got some football fans, definitely some hockey fans up there, and as I learned this morning, fans of a lot of different sports there in Alberta, Canada. So we greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. So let me go ahead and get to the introduction of our featured speaker, and that's Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Paul Warfield. He was drafted by both the Browns and the Bills in 1964. Oh, thank you. Are you guys clapping for me? Thank you. I appreciate that. He was drafted by both the Browns and the Bills in 1964. For those of you that don't know, to give you a little historical perspective, there was the AFL that rivaled against the NFL back in the 60s. So many players, especially the great players like Paul Warfield, would have been drafted by both leagues, and they would have made a choice. He was a Cleveland fixture before the 1970 trade to Miami. He was a key element in the Dolphins' offense. His mere presence on the field forced defensive adjustments. Fast, super smooth, precise pattern runner, sure-handed, and an excellent blocker. Throughout his career, he caught 427 passes for 8,565 yards and 85 touchdowns. Had a sensational, now get this, 20.1 yard per catch average throughout his career. He was all NFL 6 years, named at 8 Pro Bowls, and was born in Warren, Ohio. Off the field, he's been inducted in a number of things, including the Warren Sports Hall of Fame, the Cleveland Browns Ring of Honor, the Miami Dolphins Hall of Fame, and the Ohio State University Hall of Fame. And then obviously, in 1983, Mr. Warfield received the highest honor that an individual football player can receive, and that's being enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Just to give you students an idea of how big of an honor it is, since the NFL started in 1920, there have been over 20,000 players that have played in the National Football League. Out of that, only 280 are enshrined in the Hall of Fame. And out of those 280, it's only about 240 that are players. So 240 out of 20,000. That just gives you an idea of how big of a star and how great of an athlete Mr. Paul Warfield was. Off the field, he pursued a variety of business interests, but most recently, and I think he can share with you a little bit about that as well, he was in sports administration and with the Cleveland Browns as I believe a special advisor to the general manager with the Cleveland Browns. So with that being said, if the students there in Cathedral and the students there at California or in Canada, if you want to unmute your microphones and join me and give a warm round of applause to Pro Football Hall of Famer Mr. Paul Warfield. Thank you, and we'll ask the students at Canada, go ahead and mute your microphones there, and Mr. Warfield, if you'd like to open with your opening remarks, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry Shockey. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be here with you, students centered right here at Cathedral City. Of course, Palm Springs area is now my home. I came here roughly 5.5 years ago from the East Coast of the United States in Miami, Florida. So I am really happy to be here with you this morning, and I'm also happy to be with our neighbors north of us in Alberta, Canada. Alberta, Canada is a place that I have not been to as of yet. I have been to Vancouver. I have been to Toronto. I have been to Windsor. I have been to Montreal. So Alberta is on my list, and I hope to see the students there at some time in the near future. Our neighbors north in Canada are great people. I've had very wonderful experiences when I have vacationed or I've visited the Ontario province, in Vancouver, or in Quebec. And so certainly I have fond memories of being up there. As I think about speaking to you students today, both north and here in California, I have to reflect back to a time in which I was like many of you, a youngster who was a student in high school. My high school was in Ohio, northeastern part of Ohio, and it's called Warren Harding High School, named after Warren G. Harding, a president of the United States. It was a time in my life in particular, in which I was really trying to find myself, what I wanted to do, and I was being told by teachers and also by my parents and others that I had to look beyond high school to see and find out where I would fit in this community of Warren if I lived there, or in this society of the United States of America. But many of the lessons that I learned, I felt that time, particularly in the school systems, primary and secondary schools, and particularly high school, as you are right now, really set the foundation for me to be what I wanted to be career-wise and to be the individual that I wanted to be. And we're talking today about a few things that we will discuss, and I'm very interested in what your thoughts are with regard to character and what role does character play in helping you to become the individual that you would like to be, to make the contribution that you would like to be, and what kind of is expected of you. And so I look at character as being that trait in a person that identifies him or her as being basically a good person, someone to look up to, someone that those who are in this community here in the Palm Springs area and in Alberta, Canada, as someone who's admirable and someone who knows the difference between right and wrong, but always tries to do the right thing. Now, we may not be always capable, but we always attempt to do the right thing. And that's what a person of character is. It sets a good example for everyone and tries to do things that will make this community, the community in Canada, the country of Canada, or the country of the United States, really a better place. There's some identifiable traits for those individuals who represent good character. And we talk about 6 pillars. Integrity, which means standing up for your beliefs and following your conscience, be it moral, and as I said, doing the right thing. Honesty is certainly a good policy. Trying to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Never being deceptive, but always being forthright. Reliability, trying to be reliable, and also keeping promises. Honor your word, which is important. Your word is your bond. When you make a commitment to do something, do that something. Reliability, as far as the promises are concerned. And loyalty, which is meaning standing up for your friends, standing up for your family, standing up for your school, standing up for your country. Those are all also very important traits. Respect. You want to be able to respect other people, but have people to respect you, if they will respect you if you do the right things as far as your life is concerned. Showing tolerance and not being judgmental of other people, and having the ability to at least listen to other individuals, but to respect other individuals regardless of race, creed, color, or religion. Being courteous as far as respect is concerned. That's, I think, a very important trait. Courtesy is something that we all can do. Showing good manners. Also being polite and not putting down other individuals. Put downs are really, I think, a negative thing as far as I'm concerned. Those things that we do as far as responsibility and meeting legal and moral obligations, knowing what you are supposed to do, accountability, accepting the responsibility for consequences, being able to think things through. I know my mother used to always talk to me when I was about your age, and every time that I would reach for the doorknob to leave our home to go out, she would always be reminding me, and I was almost putting my hands up to my ears as if, well, you've told me this, Mother, over and over and over again. But fortunately for me, when I would get out of our parents' domain and would be with friends, fortunately that little voice was always talking to me in my ears about doing the right thing, about being responsible, about doing what you need to do to make a good impression. And there are many times, as many of you have been out with your friends, situations arise for you, and pressure is placed on you at a given moment. But this is where character comes in which you stand up because you're going to do the right thing. You're going to do the right thing as far as behavior is concerned. You're going to do the right thing as far as respect is concerned. You're going to do the right thing as far as acknowledging what the standards are for this community, standards are for this school, as far as your citizenship is concerned. You are going to want to do all those things because you want to succeed and become what you want to become. For me, and we're going to talk about this, athletics was very important for me. And I wanted to perform in athletics. However, as many of you have some insecurities, I had insecurities as a young person also. In some instances, I was afraid to go out for football. But fortunately, some of my teachers saw something in me and gave me the nudge and encouraged me to go out for football. I thought that there were other players that were better than me, and some of them were better than me. Yet, because I wanted to do this and because the foundation was laid for me, starting first with my parents, whom I respected and loved immensely, because they set the foundation for me in my home as to how I was to be a person of good character outside of that home. I went through a school system that I identified as Warren G. Harding in my hometown of Warren, Ohio, that presented for me the same lessons that I learned from my parents. And when I wanted to play football, which is something I wanted to do so badly, the head football coach there stressed the same things, citizenship, that we were to be the kinds of football players who were not going to be the malcontents or going to be those who created problems within the school or outside of the school, that if we wanted to play on the football team, that we had to be not necessarily special people, but we had to be good and productive people on the field, which he was going to ask an awful lot of us, but also off of the field. And if we wanted to do those things, then we could wear the honor of a jacket that we used to wear for our football games then, and it bore the colors of our school. He said, we are going to do some very special things with our football program. All of you can be a part of it if you are willing to do the things that we ask you to do. And some of those things were tough to do, but we received a lot of adulation from our fellow students, from the community at large, and also we received individual accolades too. So it was a very proud and privileged opportunity for us. But all of this involves being a person of high character. And those are the things that you can stress. Whatever your ideals are in life and wherever you want to go in life and whatever you want to do, identify those things. Certainly teachers will be at hand for you to help you because they see the things that are a part of you. And you can be a person of character and a person who will reach his goals. So with that, I will stop talking. I've taken up too much time talking. And so now we can engage in some dialogue between the two of us, and hopefully I can pass on some additional information to all of you that will help you in attaining your goals for the future.
And thank you, Mr. Warfield. Thank thank you, students, and thank you, Mr. Warfield. I think some great information that you just gave there, some life lessons that definitely they can apply to their life. But I'm really excited to start diving into some of the specific questions, maybe specific situations students have encountered, where they can get some advice from you on how you display those character qualities, how you adhere to your morals, your integrity, your ethics, the things that you believe were right, and distancing yourself from those things that are wrong. So I'm going to quit talking as well because I want to get to the questions. We're going to start in just a second. Cathedral, I'm not sure if you're going to have a student walk up front or if they project loud enough, they can say it out so we can say it in the microphone and maybe Mr. Warfield can repeat it. But we'll get you in just a second. In Canada, we're just going to go back and forth one by one. Cathedral Canada, and take those questions from those students. And again, just let me reiterate, you guys are talking to one of the greatest football players ever in NFL history. You think of the great wide receivers nowadays in the NFL, whether it's Calvin Johnson or Larry Fitzgerald or whoever it might be, they aspire to be in Mr. Warfield's shoes and be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I would imagine if they knew anything about his character and about his achievements off the field, they would aspire to be like him off the field as well. So this is an opportunity to learn from someone who's achieved greatness. So with that being said, Cathedral High School, if you want to start the program off with the first question, go ahead.
Raise your hand if you'd like to ask Mr. Warfield a question. Over there. You're going to stand up and really project, okay?
What important lesson did you learn from your football experience? Like, at least one.
I didn't hear that clearly. Could you repeat that, please? And what is your name, young lady?
Teresa.
Teresa.
What important lesson did you learn from your football experience?
What lessons did I learn from my football experience? I think starting in the beginning, as I reiterated in my opening message to you, that I wanted to play football. And I've had two experiences with that. And first, the program started in elementary school for me. And I wanted to go out for the football team, but I was afraid to go out for the football team. I was afraid that I wouldn't do very well. You know, when I would be in my neighborhood playing football with other kids, it was comfortable. I had good experiences. I had fun. But to go into organized football in the school system, even at that level, elementary level, it really frightened me. And I was afraid to do it. But fortunately, my physical education teacher, who was also the coach, as I intimated to you before, shoved or pushed me into the experience. And I went begrudgingly as he shoved and pushed me, but I got out there and I found out that I can do it. So my message in this instance is, we don't know when we think we're going to be able to do things, but we have to try, we have to attempt. Don't be afraid to fail. And if one does fail, examine that situation to find out how you can be better so that when the opportunity comes again, you can attain what you so desire. It worked out for me initially that when I was shoved into the arena, I was able to compete. But don't be afraid to take the step to get you to where you want to go. And many times, your teachers here see abilities in you that you don't even see and you may question in yourself. So I'm a great believer in instructors and teachers at all levels, whether secondary schools, colleges and universities, because many times they see those little things in us that we don't even see in ourselves, that we can make a viable contribution and attain the goals that we want to attain, and also to do good things for others.
Thank you very much. Great question to start off the program, Cathedral. We appreciate it. And let's head to our friends in Canada. That I think they're willing to host you anytime, Mr. Warfield, if you make a trip to Alberta.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Our first question is going to come from Dylan, who has brought his Ohio State Buckeyes shirt to say hello.
Well, I'll sing the Ohio State fight song for that one.
characteristics do you think make a good leader?
Wow, that's very interesting. That's a great question. What characteristics do I think make a good leader? I think integrity. I think compassion. And when I think of those two terms, one of the great leaders that I played for in college was a football coach by the name of Wayne Woodrow Hayes, better known as Woody Hayes. A very legendary coach, and I would suggest that if you go to the internet, you can research him and find him and what his accomplishments were in college football many, many years ago, long before you came along. But his approach was the same things that we're discussing here today, is that team sport was a great laboratory for all of our players to develop fully as individuals, not necessarily to be all conference or all American and all this or all that, but a great laboratory where a number of individuals are coming together, working for one goal, playing a specific role as a team member, whether that position may have been running back, quarterback, wide receiver, or whatever, all coming together with one goal for The Ohio State University. To become the best that it could be, certainly in intercollegiate athletic competition as football team. And we were a national championship team the very first year that I played for them in my sophomore season. We were also the Big Ten championship team. But Coach Hayes always stressed character. He always stressed being the best that we could be on the field as well as off the field academically and as a citizen of the community. He was compassionate in that he would give us whatever we needed in support systems as students at The Ohio State University. He told us that that was the most important thing that we were at Ohio State University for, to get a fine education and to use that education to promote our own communities that many of us would go back to, or the society in general, the United States of America, or some component of that. So he wanted us to really fully be prepared to contribute and make a difference in society or make a difference in our own careers or whatever. For those of us who had the honor of going on to play in the National Football League, that was like icing on the cake for many of us. But basically, he wanted us to be great citizens, to support communities, to support certainly the state of Ohio, to support the United States of America, and make a difference in life and quality of life around. And so that is the reason why I think that his integrity, his compassion, and his commitment, and those things that he preached, certainly in addition to what my parents instructed me, have helped make me the individual that I am today.
And another great question from Canada. Let's go back to Cathedral. You guys have another student if they want to raise their hand to Mr. Warfield?
Okay, young lady back there.
Hi.
And what is your name?
Esmeralda.
Esmeralda. Oh, I like that. It's a very nice name.
Okay. What were some obstacles that you faced during college, and how did you get through them?
Obstacles that I faced in college? Well, certainly making the adjustment initially. As a student from a small town in Warren, Ohio, my community was one of 40,000 individuals in the entire town. I went to Ohio State University that had 40,000 students on campus. So it was a huge university. A little bit of a transition, coming from a small town, going to a large university, certainly establishing new relationships and friends, and then the adjustment academically, and making that transition from being a high school student to a college student. Those were all challenges, but I had great support systems at the university. As I mentioned, our head coach in Wayne Woodrow Hayes, who really stressed education above everything else and made it important, made me realize that my function was to be at Ohio State University, first of all, to be a student and to grasp everything that I could that the university provided for me in terms of education, and then secondly, as a football player who would help Ohio State University win football games. There were times in which I had struggles with studies, but we had great support systems, which included tutors and those kinds of individuals who could help us make those transitions in terms of the learning aspect at the university and at that level. So yes, the challenges of being a new student in a new environment, certainly similar to the challenges of being in a new competition and competing against older young men who were more experienced than I in the athletic arena too. But those are the things that we learn to adapt to, and we can make and do good things for ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Warfield. And real quick, there's a couple things that I picked up on, things throughout Mr. Warfield's responses and remarks. Number one, you've heard him talk about the mentors in his life, from the great coach Woody Hayes, his high school football coach that pushed him as well. But he also talked about tutors and things like that. For some reason, I'm not sure why this happens, but in athletics, if we're struggling in something, like let's say we play basketball and we're having trouble with free throw shooting, we'll go to the coach, no problem, say, Coach, hey, I'm having trouble shooting free throws. What should I do? Let's work on your mechanics. Let's practice, 100 free throws. And you do it, and you get better. For some reason, we have a block when it becomes school, asking for help because you might struggle in science or math or social studies or whatever class it is, because we have this thought of being laughed at or uncool or whatever. And one of the things that's allowed Mr. Warfield to do the things he's done is he has allowed those people and engaged those people to help him. In some cases, it was somebody prodded him along a little bit, but he's also engaged those people to help him to make him stronger. So it's recognizing your weaknesses and then being willing to ask for help. Because I guarantee you, in your classroom, students, if you have class of 20 or 25, the question that you ask, I guarantee there's at least 5 other people that had that question that just didn't ask it. So I just encourage you to be willing to ask those questions of those folks that are in your lives. Let's go to Canada.
And related, we have a school-related question from Bryn.
If you have sports every day after school and they're time-consuming, how do you take care of your other responsibilities, like getting your homework in on time?
Well, that's a tough one. And I had that experience very much so, certainly in high school. And then when the curriculum and the load even required more responsibility as a collegiate student. And I think that we learn to organize, we learn to put ourselves on a very disciplined schedule, and we learn to follow and do things, and that's the responsibility part of your character, in which you understand what your responsibilities are. But not only do you understand what your responsibilities are, but you understand that you have to be disciplined and do those things in a daily fashion. And if you do those things daily and you adhere to what your objectives are, then you will succeed. In organized sport and competition, we have a saying, and the quotation goes something like this: fail to prepare, then prepare to fail. And winning is not luck, but winning is a confluence of preparation and being able to do the things that you need to do when they need to be done. And so the difference between the winning teams, certainly that you see professionally or even scholastically, are the teams that are well prepared, the teams that are highly disciplined, the teams that are tightly organized, and they understand what their responsibilities are. They don't decide to do something else at another time when they have to pay attention to getting their job done. And so I would suggest that, that is the way in which you structure your life and structure yourself, and you will be able to accomplish and obtain your objectives.
And thank you very much. Let's go back to the students at Cathedral. And I think Mr. Warfield has his microphone muted. There we go.
Okay.
I know it's not always the easiest thing to do to follow the 6 pillars. And some people might choose the wrong path and always may hit a wall. And my question is, what kept you motivated to keep doing what you did as a child? Was it a passion, mentors, or your ambition to accomplish your goals?
Well, I think I only got a part of that, but are you asking me the question that what did I or what would I advise individuals to do to continue in pursuit of their goals? Is that it?
Yes.
Well, my friends were very important to me when I was a youngster. And I had good relationships with my friends, and you should value those relationships with their friends. But fortunately, and we've talked about mentors, we've talked about support systems, and I had an ideal family situation. My father and my mother were constantly monitoring me and suggesting to me what was the appropriate course for me to take. I was very involved with my family in terms of our church, and certainly a good foundation was provided there. But obviously, you can't always be with your family in your home. Obviously, you can't always be in the church, and so you have to venture into the outside world. And there is where the decisions must be made by every individual with regard to what is the right course, what is the correct path to take. And certainly the thing that was most important to me at that time is I didn't know how good I might be in organized sport, but I wanted to be good. And so I believed in all of the positive attributes or things that were said that one needs to be to become an excellent athlete. A number of my friends were starting to explore negative areas of behavior as I was coming up. And so some of them were beginning to indulge in tobacco use. But I always learned that if you wanted, or alcoholic use, or alcoholic beverages, I always learned that if you wanted to be good at athletics, that these things were no-nos. So even though these people were my friends, I rejected, that lifestyle because I felt like it would not help me to accomplish what I would like to accomplish in athletics. And in short, I found that my friends, if they were really my friends, were not trying to encourage me to indulge myself. But I found also that they were no longer my friends to a certain extent because they were going a different direction than I wanted to go. And if I wanted to reach that goal of becoming a member of an athletic team or becoming a very good athlete, that unfortunately our paths were going to separate. And slowly but surely, unfortunately, many of those relationships that I had as an adolescent in junior high school and in high school were severed because I chose to go a different path than they. Now, I'm not going to necessarily negatively talk about those who were my friends, but unfortunately, many of them did not succeed, had issues, and had problems. Of course, I had a system in which I had responsibilities not only to myself, but I had expectations coming from my parents. And really, I didn't want to disappoint any of the other people in the immediate picture as far as I was concerned. So there are tough choices that you youngsters, or you students rather, will have to make sometimes. But if you want to be, again, as we're talking about, a person of good character, then you will follow a path that will help you reach the goals and where you want to go, rather than take you away from those goals.
And I think that's one of the messages that really comes through in many of our programs with our Hall of Famers. We've done this with 40 different Hall of Famers now, and that's one of the messages. To be the best, you need to surround yourself with the best, and those that are going to help you reach that goal that you have, whether it's being on the high school team, getting an A on the test, getting into the Hall of Fame, or becoming the best, pastor, plumber, preacher, or whatever that your life endeavor reach you to. So, surrounding yourselves with those people and eliminating those negatives, because we always think of peer pressure as a negative, but there is positive peer pressure. Those that are going to say, hey, let's stay after practice and let's do more reps. And I'm sure Mr. Warfield, as I know he was one of those people that would challenge people to do things like that. So there is positive peer pressure as well.
One of the things I'd like to add, Jerry, is that you're right. You're absolutely right, and I did not explain that clearly and carefully. There are positive individuals that you can be around who want to do the things the right way and who want to pursue that line and that life. And the more you surround yourself with those kind of individuals, the greater chances that you will have in reaching success.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go to Canada.
Okay, next we have Emilia.
Did you or anyone you played with quit a task in football because it was too hard?
Oh, yeah. Well, even after I started in football, and particularly at the high school level, there was the challenges again. And before I arrived at high school, I had an experience of playing junior high school football. It was okay. It wasn't anything that was great by any stretch of the imagination. I was one of the players out on the field. I wasn't quite sure that as I was going to make the transition from then junior high, which is called today middle school for the most part, to high school. And again, I found myself in a situation where I was questioning whether I was good enough, because I knew a number of the older boys at that time who were in the high school program, and frankly speaking, they were better than I. And they were bigger than I was at that point too, because I hadn't fully grown and developed, and they just were better. And so, however, I was pretty good at another sport called track and field, and also pretty good at baseball. And so my thought was, well, I want to do something in high school that I will have some success at. It's more likely I'll have success running track or either playing baseball rather than football. However, sometimes strange things happen in one's life. And to make this story short, my junior high school was visited by the head football coach at my high school, or at the high school I was going to matriculate to in Warren, which was Warren Harding. And my coach, or would-be coach at the time, came and made a speech to all of the, at that point, junior high school kids, to encourage us to go out for high school football. Now, at the point that I went to that meeting, I pretty much made up my mind that I would not play high school football because I wasn't good enough. But something happened in the 15 minutes that he talked to us. And even though I was only 14 years old at the time, it resonated with me that I wanted to be a part of the high school football program, because he made it sound so enticing, so good, and something that I want to be a part of, even though I felt like I wasn't quite good enough. Well, the end of that story is this, that decision that I made at 14 years old had a profound impact on my life, obviously, as I sit before you here today. And so I took the initiative to do it primarily because I heard something from a coach at that point that enticed me to come out. Yes, it was hard work. Yes, it was sacrifice. Yes, it was all of those things. But one gains a sense of real accomplishment when you put all of your physical energies into it, emotional energies into it, and your intellectual energies into it, and you get a good payoff. The payoff may be just making the team. The payoff may be, being one of the better players on the team, but you are the team, and the team has enormous success. And the thing that I relish more about team sport, and I've played in individual sports, and I've had accomplishments in individual sports, is the team sport. It is the group, or it is the team that comes together and identifies an objective and identifies a goal, and every member of that team is going to make a contribution, whatever role it's going to be. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the season, if you will, that team has made or reached its objective and reached its goal. I don't want to become in a political sense here in this meeting this morning, but when this is what our country is all about. Our country has had great successes over the years and since its founding, but it's always been based on the fact that coming together, groups, individuals, different cultures, different religions, all pooling together, because the opportunity here in this nation provides us all with the sense that we can make it better. And we do make it better when we all work together. I played for a number of championship teams. I played for a championship team, as I outlined, in grammar school, one that I was reluctant to start with. I played for a championship team in high school, one that I was reluctant to go to. But I played for a championship team in college and professionally in the Super Bowl. But it's all been made up of individuals who have made their contributions to the success of that organization, whether it's professional, high school, college, or elementary school. In elementary school, we were told we were going to be rewarded if we did well, and we were rewarded. And that banquet, well, it wasn't a banquet, it was a noon lunch hour deal. I still remember, and that goes back over 50 years ago, because that was my first experience with success, being a part of a championship team, an undefeated team in grammar school that I had little knowledge at the time that years later I would play for another undefeated team on the professional level that would have historical reverence. So I believe in the system, and that's why I'm here talking to you today and to you in Canada today, that through good works, through good character, through integrity, through compassion, through responsibility, that you too can attain your goals.
Thank you very much. Another great question there from our folks in Canada, and I think that bell gave you a reminder to make sure to keep your microphones muted as soon as you get your question asked there. So let's go back to the folks. I think we got time for about one more question from each school. Let's go back to the folks at Cathedral City High School.
And your name is?
Emily.
Emma?
So it's Emily.
Emily, okay.
But as a child, you were involved in a program where you had people that surrounded you and encouraged you to be an athlete. But I wanted to know why you chose, what motivated you to be a football player when you knew you were good at track or baseball. Like, what pushed you as an individual to choose to play football?
What motivated me to be, I think, it certainly was a choice whether I was going to. Well, first of all, I did them all, particularly at the interscholastic level. In other words, when I was a high schooler, like you. So I ran track, I played baseball, I played football, and I played basketball. So I had the exposure and experience to all of them. So I really loved competition, organized competition. And so I I wanted to do it, and as I alluded to earlier, with my first exposures and experiences to football at the lower levels, I was afraid to do it. I got the push, and I was happy that I got the push to be pushed into the arena because I had self-doubts. And I think we all have self-doubts to a certain extent. And that's why I was indicating to you students here and, of course, our friends in Canada that don't be afraid to risk possibility of failure. It only makes one stronger, I think, and there's an old adage to a certain extent that the competitor who gets knocked down, who has the capacity to get up and then succeed from that point on, is one of really strong character and one of really perseverance. And perseverance in terms of my initial experiences in playing scholastic football or high school football was one in which I had to break through the fear of going out. And once I broke through the fear of going out, then I had to climb the mountain to get to where I wanted to get to. Perseverance played a role in that. Some good fortune for me. And let me take you through just quickly. When I went out for the high school football team, in my very first year, after a few practice sessions and before we got into the season, I was probably, they call the strings, there's the first team string, first string, second string, that's the backups, third string, that's the third backup, fourth string. I was probably the fifth string running back when I was in high school, initially. But through perseverance, through good fortune, and through work of my own, ultimately, before that year ended, I ended up being the second team or second string back, and I got a chance to play and gain invaluable experience. But recounting how I got to second string was some good fortune. Unfortunately, the young man who was the first team running back, broke an ankle. That was misfortune on his part, but good fortune on my part, so I moved up a notch from fifth to fourth team. Another young man also was injured, and he was out, so I moved up from fourth team to third team. Then, this is not perhaps comical, but the guy who was standing in front of me academically was not very good, so he did not play, and so now I moved up to second team. So a little bit of good fortune, fate, but determination to stay with it. I became the second team player who gained a lot of experience, and then the following year I became a starter, and then my career really took off for me. So perseverance, belief in one's ability, certainly getting support from my coaches who were encouraging me, all of those things play a role. Life is not going to be a smooth sailing ship to get to where one wants to get to. To determine how bad one really wants to achieve his or her goal, to get where you want to get, is very important in the path and how you get there. And nothing comes extremely easy, but being able to deal with adversity and still find a way to circumvent or to surmount barriers to get to your destination leaves one with a wonderful feeling of accomplishment, because you have exercised and used all of your intelligence, your physical capabilities, your emotions to get to achieve your goal.
And I see we have it's about 1:01 here, so 11:01 in Canada and 10:01 in California. So we've got time for, we got about 3 minutes left, so we go to one more question from the folks in Canada, and then ask Mr. Warfield for any closing remarks that you'd like to share.
Why is trust important on a football team?
Go ahead and repeat that, please.
Why is trust important on a football team?
The question is by the young person in Canada, why is trust so important on the football team? I think it's important because these are the people that you believe in. These are the people who have committed to do the things that you want to do. These are the people that have accepted the oath or the code that will help the team to be successful. And these are the people that you rely on. Let me give you a quick example, I guess. And that being that years ago when I played for the Cleveland Browns, we all talked about doing a review session of a game that we had just played and how important trust is, but responsibility is along with trust. And when a quarterback, and as we were critiquing a play by the head coach, the quarterback was saying, the head coach was saying that when we throw a pass, we expect a lot of things to happen. We expect the offensive line to block and do their job because the quarterback must be protected to throw the football. We also expect the running backs who are lying alongside with the quarterback to also do their job of blocking. We expect the quarterback to do certain things such as take the required steps, 7 steps, let's say, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and deliver the football on time.
The conference is about to end.
The receiver to catch the ball. However, I didn't catch the ball. So all of these people who did their job, were trusting in me, but yet I let them down. You don't want to let your friends down. You don't want your associates down. You want to always work on their behalf.
Thank you, and I apologize. And I apologize. That's a 5-minute warning on our bridge. It's going to disconnect here for the next session, but I know the students at Cathedral, I think you guys have to get out of there to your classes. So any closing remarks you'd like to share there, Mr. Warfield?
Well, it's been my pleasure to be with you this morning. Let me just say this quickly, and that is that when I was a youngster and in high school, like many of you today and as students, I listened to a lot of speakers. The best thing that I did was listen because I didn't have all the information. And I found that those conferences, those sessions and auditoriums were very beneficial to me in helping me to understand where my place would be ultimately in the world. And I say good luck to all of you because I know that you'll be stellar students, but not only stellar students, but stellar citizens for this community in the state of California and this country.